I let out a sigh, as I looked at Diablo, who was going fu. He's totally getting carried away. It felt like he was saying, thank you very much. That bulky Pierrot who was Diablo's opponent, I think Footman was his name, I can't help but feel sorry for him. He's pretty much insane now, having only the motive to kill every other moving thing in his immediate vicinity, but it's not like I'm actually worried about him. The one who I need to worry about was Leon, who was now collapsed before me. I walked over to Leon's side, and placed my hand onto his chest. Leon's subordinates were looking at me all surprised, but I put a finger on my lip, as a sign for them to keep quiet. Now wasn't the time for a vocal dispute. I took out a full potion from my chest pocket, which was in fact my imaginary space, and I used it to close up the gaping hole in Leon's chest. But the potion only did that much. Leon had yet to wake up, even though his body had been repaired. But there was no need to panic. This was still the closed-off world inside of Misery's barrier. You could say that Leon was really lucky. Just because, if I had not come, he would have been in real danger. In the first place, if I were to give a reason as to why we are here, I'm letting Velda assume that I'm dead, as I observed everything happening in the world while lurking in the shadows. The mini-Moss clones stealthily dispersed by Diablo were greatly convenient. They provided some of the best spy information, as always. My observation magic, and Moss spy intel. Understanding what was happening anywhere was easy peasy, no matter where I chose to hide. Well, transferring the information into the alternate dimension I was hiding in took some work, but I got Seal to do this, so this problem was solved. Using some magic theory I totally didn't understand, she created a comfortable space for where we did our spying. As expected of Sensei. She's almighty as always. We collected all sorts of information in that space, and as I was looking through it all with Diablo, Velda's presence was detected in Leon's territory. There is a very high chance that it is not his main body. But the chance to gain some much needed intel is also there, I see. If it's Sensei's words, it must be true. And that was pretty much the gist of why I'm here now. Well, it's not like the situations in the other locations can be ignored, but this war ends when Velda is defeated, so what I will prioritize was pretty obvious. Over at Guy's place, his battle with Chloe was growing in intensity, but there were no big changes just yet. Rumina's side was also on a pinch, but there's Adelman and Albert, along with Shin too. They'd be able to hold out for a while. It would have been the best if I could defeat Velda when he appeared here, but that's just wishful thinking. It looks like Velda's objective was to recover the power that he had given to Kazarim. He gave his projection physical mass, which meant he linked a portion of his actual body as part of the projection's data with an ability similar to parallel existence. Parallel existence was an ability that let the user control clones of himself, but needed energy to be divided for each copy. What he did was that he only overlapped his consciousness with the projection data so as to allow him to recover the power as data. That sounds about right. Parallel existence, which there is always a main body, or multiple existence in which every copy is a main body. Which one is more of a pain to deal with, depends on the person using the ability. But, in terms of ability classing, multiple existence is definitely one of the highest tier abilities without a doubt. Even now, as Seal Sensei is analyzing it right now, I can say that with confidence. But I digressed. The moment I arrived was right when Velda's multiple existence copy had finished recovering the power from Kazarim. I had just missed him. Nothing I can do about that. By the time I teleported over after detecting him, Velda had already finished what he came here for. Information was delivered at the moment of cognition. That was one of the annoying things about multiple existence. It's impossible to overpower that transfer speed, unless you use some ability to stop time. To quote Seal Sensei, the speed at which data was transferred was practically faster than the speed of light. It was word for word, at the same time. So, there wasn't anything we could have done to prevent Velda from slipping through our fingers this time. In any case, this was but a portion of him as data, so it's not like we could have given him a finishing blow anyways, so I was not going to lose sleep over this. The real problem happened after that. Misery repaired the hole in the barrier that Benimaru and Kazarim's battle opened. That was likely his attempt to cut off Velda's data body, but that was impossible even with the reaction speed of a demon. Rather you could say it was a valiant attempt, with the situation being what it was. Me and Diablo snuck in through the hole too, but now we're stuck inside too. For us who were painstakingly avoiding getting found by Velda, breaking the barrier to leave was a no-go. We'd definitely be found out if we did that. This was a slightly embarrassing situation, so me and Diablo were completely hiding our presence and observing the others instead. So, we sat back for a while, and Leon collapsed soon after that. It looked like it would be a death confirmed, if this went on as is, so I decided to lend a hand and made my appearance. That was after getting the green light from Seal, after confirming no data could be transferred in or out of Misery's wonderful barrier. If there was any chance at all that I would get found by Velda, I would have left Leon to his own fate. Don't think too badly of me, the important thing now is defeating Velda. This may seem cold, but this was just me setting my priorities straight. But this was good luck for Leon, as our current location was completely shut out from the outside world. I immediately strengthened Misery's barrier, in preparation for making my appearance. And here we are again, as I started treating Leon. At a glance, his soul seemed intact, but his core had taken damage. It was the source of power that an awakened hero attained. If this was damaged, they became unable to properly control their powers. That was what was reported, after Seal-sensei did a calm analysis. Fumu, what should I do now? But the remainder are making a ruckus, which is a problem. Benimaru seemed to be very drained after his bout with Kazarim, and couldn't defeat that blob in a single attack as he was now. As expected, he understood that he shouldn't waste energy in attacks that don't get him results, so there's no sign of him trying to do such things. Sui and that devil Laplace too lack the firepower to cause any decisive damage. Misery was putting all her effort into her barrier, which is the right decision. They looked to be stalling until Benimaru recovered his energy, but that wouldn't give me much peace of mind to carry on with treatment. I kinda felt bad for Benimaru, but I judged that this is time for Diablo to make his appearance. Alright. Can't help it, huh? Go for it, Diablo-san. The moment I gave my order, Diablo, who was standing by, sprung into action. Fu. Leave it to me, my master. He gleefully and grandly makes his appearance, grabs Footman by the head and slams him into the ground. That was quite the outset, were my thoughts when I saw what happened. The rest who were shocked, and Diablo with his smug face. From there on, the situation was expected to become one-sided. I focused on treating Leon, and when I snuck a peek at what was happening, Fu. What's wrong? Is that all that your power amounts to? It had turned into a situation where I wanted to say, just what kind of a villain are you? Well, was it because I also gave him orders in a somewhat villainous tone? Nah, that's probably not it. Diablo diced Footman up with the claws on both of his hands, showing the difference in power between them. Naturally, the parts that were cut up slowly dwindled away. Diablo was chopping him up at a pace that overpowers his regeneration. Huge flashes of light and impacts happened every once in a while. Was the barrier going to hold out like this? I'm worried, even though I did strengthen the barrier. Hey, is this going to be okay? Has Diablo forgotten that we should be trying to stay off of Velda's radar? It is judged to be under control. On that point, Diablo has his bases covered. Seal confidently replies. Oh, I see it now. I didn't notice when, but Diablo had used his Temptation Lord Azazel and activated Temptation World. As expected of Diablo, his combat style was as shrewd as ever. Diablo wouldn't be committing the same mistakes that Benimaru had done, huh? Looks like it won't be a problem. Don't think I'll need to worry, and just leave that to Diablo, it'll be fine. It doesn't seem like he will fail to divest ultimate skill Evil Dragon Lord. Azadahaka, eh? You meant that part? I was not worrying about that. Without me knowing yet again, the main prerequisite became stealing the enemy's ability. I'd just let you guys do that. I have went beyond being shocked, and just half-heartedly went back to doing Leon's treatment. As I moved on with Leon's treatment, I overheard Benimaru and Ko's conversation. Yeah, no, I've been thinking. But that demon, ain't he just plain nonsense? How is he's just brute forcing his way through, but how is he not showing any signs of fatigue? Right. He's just that kind of person, as expected of Diablo-sama. Looks like still have a long way to go. Don't go thinking of him as the standard. That's not a battle style that we can learn from, that's why he's just boldly showing his hand. It's suicidal to even think of trying what he's doing. To Laplace's question, Benimaru tosses a reply back. Misery simply gave her honest feedback, while Sui calmly analyzes and gives a warning. I don't think there was a need to explain in such detail to someone who was only a temporary ally, but maybe Sui was slightly shaken up from the situation. It's not like that can be mimicked easily anyway, so he probably didn't care all too much. He was surprised enough by the appalling spectacle to have lost all words for a while, but seems like he had calmed down enough. From the previous pinch they were in, the situation probably felt like a joke to him now. Accepting the facts that have just happened must have been troubling for him. Fu. Oh, my apologies. I seem to have put in a little too much force, I seem to have ripped an arm off. His enemy cowered as though being trampled by the strong, as the demon chuckled. This was all too one-sided to even call it a fight, even the spectators felt uncomfortable as they watched on. Diablo was so overpowered, it looked like he was playing around. But, contrary to his tone, Diablo was making use of extremely high-level skills and was progressing his battle calculatingly. Destroying parts as he went on, he slowly sapped Footman's energy. The claws that his hands were clad in, was the energy of Turn Null in a super compressed form. He was using the energy he borrowed from me in a focused style. Such a feat was only possible, with his exceptional battle sense. Firstly, from what could be deduced by looking at the remains of the battlefield of course. Seal-sensei was the one doing it, the energy that Benimaru had borrowed from me, he released all of it in one instant. Controlling these vicious void energies then dumping it on the enemy, this certainly works against most beings. Most would probably be destroyed without being able to resist. But, there was always a price to pay. You would have to use a massive chunk of your own energy, and become unable to continue with a prolonged battle like how Benimaru is right now. It's great to keep as an ace in the hole, but it wasn't something to be used carelessly. On that point, Diablo's method of using it is more reliable. His special training to kill time in the past 2 days, certainly bore fruit. It was a method of circulating energy thought up by Seal-sensei, while we were hiding in subspace. Aptly named, the Taurus Secret Art. That's just an awesome name for it, but essentially, it's just using any space control type ability to create a situation to prevent energy from dispersing, then absorbing back the energy that was used. To quote an existing example, when Diablo was in his temptation world, he was able to recycle his own energy constantly. This logic was as hard to understand as magic, but Diablo was able to understand Seal's words. Let's say, there was your energy and the energy of another being, in a closed-off world. Your aim would be to neutralize the opposition or, mutual dispersion was okay too, but strictly speaking, the idea was to seclude one of the energies and release the other one from that closed world. Then, you absorbed back whichever one. That was your energy. The opposition's released energy was then used to maintain the world that was created for this purpose. By using this cycle, it became possible to one-sidedly weaken your opponent. Honestly, I couldn't understand any of that stuff, but Diablo managed to pull it off.